Good morning, everybody. Before we get into our teaching today, I'd like to take a moment and bear a little witness with you to the way the masters move in our lives. It's not always a thunderous revelation. It's not always something that is stupendous and coming with flashes of lightning. We often experience what I like to call the little blessings. So I tend to be a very organized person. So when I know that I have to prepare for something important like today's sermon, I like to get ahead of things. I have never been a person to fly by the seat of my pants. Interestingly, my preparation for today's teaching came early, and I was a little surprised by the promptings that came to me to sit down and put this all together, and I was well ahead of schedule. So I wondered to myself if the master had a reason for that. And lo and behold, the master did. So as we were coming into this week, which typically I would be pulling together my final thoughts about the service and what have you, my work life got very, very crazy. And I was reflecting the other day on how this teaching came and was buttoned down much earlier than my self-appointed schedule. And I thank Jesus for being with me and giving me those promptings to bring these together. And I heard that small voice say, "Don't mention it." And I was wholly embraced in the warmth of his smile. So I wanted to share that with you today as a reminder to always look for the little blessings, because the master moves in our lives in many, many ways. And if we're not paying attention, we might overlook those little victories. And I consider this a blessing in that it was a dispensation that I was relieved of a burden of competing priorities. So I'll leave you with that to think about. So let's move to our teaching now. The third commandment reads, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." Now, growing up, my earliest memories of my catechism were on the reverence of God's name, keeping it holy, not taking it in mortal cursings to be used in anger against man. It is a prayer. To utter the name of God is to call for the descent of light to our omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent Creator. So let's explore how there is actually more to this commandment than simply using the name of our Lord God in vain, in curse, in anger, or profanity. So in religious terms, what is the meaning of the phrase "in vain"? I found a Christian website, crossway.org, that has this to say about it. So what exactly is forbidden by the third commandment? The word vain can mean empty, nothing, worthless, or to no good purpose. We are forbidden, therefore, from taking the name of God in a manner that is wicked, worthless, or for wrong purposes. This doesn't mean that we have to avoid the divine name altogether. We don't need to be superstitious about saying his name, but we must not misuse it. The topic goes on to say, when you make a declaration swearing by God's name, it must not be a false promise or one that you do not intend to keep. So I'd like you to hold on to that word declaration for a few moments. We're going to come back to that shortly. But in the meantime, we're going to take a short self-survey. And I'd like you to rate the following questions on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 meaning this is not true, and 10 meaning the statement is absolutely true. When something happens to anger me and I say I am angry, it is true. When something joyful happens and I say I am happy, it is true. Jesus is the Son of God. When I have had a long or stressful day or have not slept well, if I say I am tired, it is true. I am worthy. I am everywhere. in the consciousness of God. Now we come back to that word, declaration. To declare something means making a formal or explicit statement or announcement. So now let's go back to our today's scripture reading, where Moses asked God, "Whom shall I say sent me?" And God replied, and God said unto Moses, "I am that I am." And he said, "Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you." God is I am. When we say the words I am, we are affirming, are declaring the state of God within us individually, because we know that I am God. The I am lives within each and every one of us. So now think about your responses to the questions that I shared with you just a quick moment ago. When something happens to anger me and I say I am angry, it is true. When I have had a long or stressful day or have not slept well, if I say I am tired, it is true. Did you declare them as true? Wouldn't that be using God's name to no good purpose? Now think of these two statements. I am worthy. I am everywhere in the consciousness of God. What did you feel making these statements? Were they empty? Or did you feel the whole of God rise up in your being? Or maybe somewhere in between? Our voice, we know, is our power center, and with it we create. I have memories also of my earliest catechism as a youngster in first grade, learning initially about creation and God saying, "Let there be light," and there was light. So we must be conscious, ever vigilant, with each word we create, lest we lose attunement with our own I am presence. So I raise this today as deeper understanding on the holy commandment to use God's name only in positive ways, infused with light, affirming, declaring the I am within with momentums of light. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to end the day and know that every I am declaration that we had made was one of high vibration, anchoring the light of God, expanding the light within us? So we now find ourselves in the season of Lent, and in conjunction with this reflection on the third commandment, I was guided to the following dictation by our beloved Jesus. It's actually an Ascension Day address, but I found woven into this address are reminders of the keeping of this sacred third commandment. So we go now to volume 33, number 18, titled, "Ascend to the level of your I am presence with Jesus, coming into consonance with the living word of your own being." And Jesus speaks to us. "Lo, I am that I am. I come therefore in the body of the Buddha that I am, the Dharmakaya. I do not lower my vibration any lower than this level, for I desire to establish my electronic presence in the I am that I am, to magnetize your souls to the level of your own I am presence. Often the dictations of the ascended masters are given at the level of your holy Christ self. Thus you have come to understand and become accustomed to the practice of heaven meeting you halfway. In this hour, I, Jesus, compel you to rise to new levels of comfortability in your God presence." Now, how can we do this if we do not fully immerse ourselves and believe that where we are, God is? I am everywhere in the consciousness of God must be a vibration and a fiat that we live within. Jesus continues, "Some of you are not even comfortable in the presence of your holy Christ self and practice avoidance techniques to avoid coming into consonance with the living word of your own being. Now I say, resolve this inconsistency in your world, which is inconsistent, with the path of Maitriya's mystery school. Resolve it by love for your holy Christ self, by trust in your holy Christ self, and fear not to receive the communications of your holy Christ self and to obey the will of God. Now I had to wonder to what degree this avoidance that Jesus speaks of might be rooted in our subconscious minds. Those of us having come out of what we know to be the traditional Christian paths in this embodiment, or maybe even previous embodiments, were likely taught that we are unworthy sinners. And this is why we have the doctrine of vicarious atonement. So I had to wonder if subconsciously, from this conditioning, are we afraid that that might be true, that we aren't worthy? So much so on a subconscious level that we are afraid to prove it? Jesus said, I, Jesus, compel you to rise to new levels of comfortability in your God presence. Is there a lack of will to try because we actually fear rejection? And in not trying, we actually allow this condition put upon us by the fallen ones to impede and sabotage our climb. Something to think about. Now, coming back to the dictation. Obedience is always a test of trust and faith. Without trust and faith, the Chela cannot proceed on the path. In this hour, the challenges at hand presented to you this evening by the messenger require your comfortability in the very presence of God, the I am that I am. Therefore, make peace with your God and recognize that as your goal is the ascension at the conclusion of this life, it is time that you establish acquaintance with thy God. Acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace. And thinking of the third commandment, how might breaking this commandment impact that acquainting? If I declare I am God within me in any negative way, how can I expect to be assumed into that light when I declare it to be anything less than perfection? Jesus continues, give love and remember that all that has been taught you by Gautama Buddha concerning the giving of light to those not of the light applies to every attribute of God. Give not love unto those who do not give or receive the love of God. Purge yourselves of mutual idolatries, human attachments, etc. Therefore, let all of your commitments at every level of life be based first and foremost upon supreme allegiance to your mighty I am presence. There is no need to hide from this Lord your God, lest the Lord discover and expose the secrets of your hearts. You cannot hide from your God, beloved, and therefore pray that the Lord will not hide his face from you. Now, in thinking about what Jesus is saying here, I'm reminded, I've sinned, we've all sinned. If we hadn't sinned, we wouldn't be here walking the earth. And there are no secrets. The Lord knows all. God knows our fears, our joys, our aspirations, our sorrows, even our shames. Do we act like the child, hesitant to face the Father because of our transgressions? What do we fear? Do we fear loss of love? Fear of loss of love is a mortal concept and condition. God knows all about us and loves us unconditionally. Is it not better to be naked before our God, to acknowledge that nakedness and move past it, to move past it rather than think that anything can be hidden from God? We may as well bear it all because he knows it already. Now, I don't know about you, but I tend to think of the masters as flawless, not only in their ascended state, but I tend to think of them having always been flawless. And I have to remind myself that They walk the path just as I and every one of us is walking the path. And they stumbled and they made mistakes across the way, and yet they ascended. So if they can transcend, if they can succeed, so can we. And think also of Jesus, the transgression that he made in his embodiment as King David out of his affection for Bathsheba. And Jesus went on to be the avatar of the Piscean age. So again, the masters erred just as we err. And if they can transcend, then nothing is impossible for any one of us. Coming back now to this dictation. The aspiration to walk in your God presence is not far-fetched. It is not unreal. It is not impossible. Therefore, consider the calls that I have sent to you, and consider that whether or not you have answered the call and integrated with dispensations offered and given, the spirals move on. They intensify. They wind round the coil of being, and even if you have not fulfilled the prior ones, nevertheless, the initiations move on. Now, did you know that in the 6th ray section of our decree book, that there are 12 I am fiats out of 29 decrees? And I think about this and put the question, when offering these fiats, are you in the full vibration of the I am? Do you carry the full fire with you when you leave the altar? Or is it a vibration that is left behind? It's not difficult to get caught up in the fire of our decrees and our services, but carrying and sustaining that momentum takes work. Being in the world, interacting, keeping that vibration, that immersion in the I am is work. Any given day in what the planet is like right now can feel like we're running the gauntlet. The Master continues, all of you, beloved, are precious and loved. My words come to you that you might increase in strength and joy, and therefore not experience pain and suffering by entertaining any of the levels of human creation on any of the lines of your clock that are triggered by your own karmic or astrological patterns. Beloved ones, the path of the conquerors is a joyous one. When joy flees from your heart and mind, it is truly time to go within, to give perpetual prayers, to make a joyful shout unto the Lord, to be grateful, to use your voices upraised to reestablish the connection. Joy can come through the darkest night. It is the sign of inner resolution and balance, of 4 lower bodies in peace, in service of God. So here Jesus reminds us that avoidance delays the victory. Better to embrace our tests and karma and stepping stones than to think that we could possibly move around them and still climb the ladder. Where there is an absence of joy, beloved, solve the problem quickly. For the absence of joy eclipses the sun of your I am presence. And therefore, in that moment, when you let go of joy, clouds are between you and your God, clouds of world condemnation and clouds of your vulnerability to that condemnation. Then let there be the release of fire. And here I was reminded to be mindful of those I am declarations. Do I say, I am tired? Do I say, I am burdened? Or do I say, I am victorious, I am resolute, and I am revitalized? I come at the level of the I am presence, for this is the celebration of my ascension, Jesus says. Though the world has not apprehended the true date and true hour of the ascent, yet it has been revealed to you by beloved El Moria. And may you understand this great opportunity of walking in my footsteps, walking in the presence of my own ascended master light body, the Dharmakaya. Those who choose to walk with God may have a closer communion with their presence than they realize, while those who assume that communion are often those who have it least. Nevertheless, the hour of my ascension and of the release of that ascension coil from my causal body has come. A week from today, you will celebrate Pentecost. What you may receive from that descent of the Holy Spirit depends upon your willingness to assimilate, to be part of your own I am God presence. To do so will require the setting aside of lesser desires, lesser goals and indulgences and byways. It is your choice, beloved, and you have free will. I simply set before you opportunity and give you to understand the requirements that must be met to benefit from the opportunity. Further in the dictation, Jesus says to us, he invites us, visualize yourself placing your feet in the footprints of Moses as he mounted Mount Sinai, as he went to that height to commune in the I am that I am to receive the 10 Commandments. Understand, beloved, that one must rise in consciousness to the heights of the mountain of God to desire to be in the I am presence. Now, here I was reminded of our Keeper's Daily Prayer, Decree 1.0, given to us by Lady Master Nada. And near the end of that decree, the statement reads, where I am, God is also, unseparated forever, I remain. It doesn't stop at where I am, God is. Where I am, God is also, unseparated forever, I remain. It reminds us that God is within us, alive within us, and we are not separated. Any sense of separation is our own doing. Oh, beloved, this perpetual love of your heart for your mighty I am presence endures all things. For you see, some can last for moments or hours or days or weeks, but they will not last for centuries, not because they are not able, but because they refuse, because now they wish to turn the tables and dictate unto God just how long they will endure and no longer, before they become angry at the length of the testing. Blessed hearts, you can see how in the very process of the testing, the fire increases in the heart. And if you do not use that fire to slay the dweller, one day the dweller will erupt as Vesuvius and a giant anger to overturn all of the path you have won, because the soul has not taken seriously the necessity of conquering that dweller, even while enduring unto the end to receive the crown of life. He also says to us, those who have the fear of failure are the fallen ones and never the light bearers. Therefore, do not accept any such fear, but do your best and be strong and balanced and make up your mind that in your mighty I am presence you will not fail, and then you will not. But if you make a mistake, if you err in judgment, God will not let his sledgehammer descend upon you. God is a God of infinite mercy to those who have as their foundation the surrender to the will of God and to his love. Now, I wonder here if perhaps this is where the seeds of the lie of unworthiness began to take root, where Jesus says, those who have the fear of failure are the fallen ones and never the light bearers. And that fear of failure is rooted in their refusal to bend the knee out of the hatred for the law and therefore the hatred of the divine man-child. So is this where they decided, if I cannot have it, neither will you. And I will do everything in my power, meaning they, the fallen ones, to keep you from believing it is even possible for you to attain such heights of God consciousness. As Jesus said, God is a God of infinite mercy to those who have as their foundation the surrender to the will of God and to his love. And he goes on, be comforted then, beloved, that you are not, be comforted then, beloved, that you are not beyond being tested or receiving the fiery trial or being proven and reproved again and again. It is not well only to be happy when things go your way and the ascended masters are patting you on the head or on the back. It is well to have joy and strength and determination amidst adversity, Midst the test that comes again and again, just after you have said to yourself, I cannot possibly go through this another time. For in so saying, you see, you are setting terms and conditions as to whether or not you will respond to God's salvation. So there we have that creative energy again. Aversion to the testing impacts the test score. So better to say, I will, I can, and I will be victorious. I come to offer you then, Jesus continues, the sphere of the ascension flame of my causal body. I come that you might touch the hem of the garment of the Dharmakaya, and I come that you might, by a process of transferal, release considerable quantities of pent-up energies of schism in the unconscious and the subconscious realms. It is a moment when the fire of my ascension can consume much for you. May the prayer on your lips when you retire this night be a prayer of release and surrender, that you might not struggle so much as you enjoy the bliss of God while you are here in the earth. Do not separate yourself from bliss by postponing to the future this consummate love of your soul in the arms of your mighty I Am presence. I am Jesus, your brother, and I counsel you to let go now of the lesser self, the lesser momentums, and the short-sighted goals that are indeed long, long detours. One never knows what might have been on the road of life not taken, nor does one ever understand what the detours can be when alternate routes are tried. I liken this a little bit to sports, right? Whether it be the football field, the baseball diamond, the soccer field, or the basketball court. When you're on that playing field, if you will, you know where you have to be. You know what the goal is, whether it be the basket, the touchdown, the goal, and you know you have to get there, and you know that there's all this opposition between here and there, and you just need to get around it. But you will have the prize, you will make the goal, and you'll just figure it out as you move across the field. Jesus says to us, thus I speak of myself in the third person. For the Jesus that I was in the hour of initiation is not the Jesus I am today. You must understand that you are not the person you were yesterday or 20 months ago or 20 embodiments ago. And therefore you cannot take upon yourself the burden of guilt or limitation that cause past inconsistencies or failures. You are not that person today. I was not the person when I ascended that I was when I was 33. Now consider his words again. You cannot take upon yourself the the burden of guilt or limitation that caused past inconsistencies or failures. Now fill in the blank. I am what? I am unworthy, or I am worthy of all the light that God fills my being. I am the victorious one. What word fills in those blanks as we go through the trials of life that honor the third commandment of our God, as opposed to breaking it by making a declaration that is empty, worthless, or to no good purpose? Our beloved Jesus says to us, now I say, drink in the cup of the ascension elixir of my causal body. This is the new wine of the Spirit, that you may drink with me this night in our Father's kingdom if you have the vigor, the joy, the love, the deep desire and determination to be at that level of your God-free being and to be happy in the process. The doors of the Dharmakaya are open to you this night through my causal body. So let us show gratitude to our beloved Jesus for his mission, for being the avatar of the Piscean age, by keeping the commandment, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, and by making peace and coming into that place of comfortability in our own I Am presence. As we come to the end of our teaching and we prepare for communion, I shall close with the words that Jesus chose as he completed this dictation through our messenger, and I invite you to carry them with you in our communion ritual today. Jesus says to us, "Now receive communion." And as you pass through the ritual of communion, sense the release as you give to me and place in my heart the cup of sorrows, the records, the memories, the attachments, and truly know that your divine individuality in God is sealed as you drink the blood and eat the flesh of the Son of manifestation, that I am that I am. Beloved Jesus, thank you for these immortal words, for your immortal light, your immortal knowing, and for being the true shepherd in heaven as you were on earth. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you. Amen.